Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. I'm Letty and today we are doing our September reading wrap up. You're gonna have to forgive me a little bit today. I am getting over a cold from last week. I lost my voice over the weekend for like 3 days. I sounded like a chipmunk. It is back now. I don't think I sound completely normal, but hopefully you guys will bear with me. It's mostly back. So let's go ahead and get started with a few updates, a few announcements. The first announcement that I'm really excited to announce is that I'm going to be doing my very first readathon prompt in November. So I'm going to be announcing that, like giving you guys the theme and the prompts in a couple weeks here in it'll be still in October, probably next week or the week after that at the latest. But I wanted to announce that to you guys now because I'm super excited about it. It's my first one. We're going to see how it goes. The next announcement that I have is that I am on Hannah Curry's launch team. I'm so sorry. I'm on Hannah Curry's launch team for her new novel, Guard Her Heart. It's the second novel in the Crown of Promise series from her. I recently just signed up to be a part of a group of readers who does launch teams for Whitefire and White Crown Publishing, so that she's one of their authors, so I'm on her launch team. I'm really excited about that. I kind of want to do something special on my channel for being on the launch team, and I was kind of thinking I'd do like a reading vlog because I've seen other people do it on their channels. The only problem is that the art copy I got is on my phone, and I also film on my phone, so I'd have to figure out a different way to film that reading vlog. But I'm going to think about it because I kind of want to do it because I want to do something special for being on the launch team. But even if I don't do the reading blog, there's definitely going to be some extra content on here for that launch team, so you guys can look for that soon. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with what I read in September. The first book I read in September is A Beautiful Disguise by Roseanna M White. It is her first book in the Imposter series, and it just came out at the beginning of September. I had pre-ordered a copy months in advance, so I read it as soon as I got it. You know, Roseanna M White is absolutely one of my favorite authors. Like, I love her books. I'm always excited for her books. I always pre-order her books, and this one was not my favorite of hers. So I don't know if you can hear that. My neighbor's doing something noisy. Sorry. So it's about two aristocratic siblings, and their names are Marigold and Yates. And their dad is an earl, but he leaves them, like when he dies, he leaves them with absolutely no money. So they basically have to like work, but they don't want to lose their standing in society. So they work secretly. They start a company called the Imposters, which they're basically like private detectives for aristocrats. Like, you know, like an earl or like a duke or somebody could come to them and be like, I want information on this person, or I want to do this, and they'll do it for them, and they do it anonymously, and they do it for a price, and that's kind of how they support themselves with the help of their two childhood friends. So, and then there's like a circus theme involved, because one of the reasons they had no money after their dad died was because their dad loved buying really extravagant stuff, and so he was always hosting like circus shows at their house and stuff, and he like built like a bunch of like circus gymnasiums and trapeze and stuff so that the kids could learn it because the kids were interested in it. So they have these like circus skills, and they have like exotic animals that live on their property, and that helps them with their private detective agency because they can like climb buildings and stuff. So the circus element of it was kind of interesting. It was kind of like a novelty. Like, we don't see that a lot in books, especially in books that are like, I think this is what, 1910 or 1911 or something. So, you know, that's, you know, 1910 high society. You don't really get a circus element into those books most of the time. So that was really interesting. I think the problem I mainly had with the book is that the main love interest, Marigold and Sir Merritt, I don't think we got like enough development with their characters. Like, I love the side characters, and honestly, Marigold's brother's Yates, he was my favorite character. I cannot wait for his book because I know that he will also have his own book in the series, and I am excited for it. Like, I really want to see Yates' story. He was a really great character, and like, I really, really loved him, even though he was a side character. And yet, Marigold and Merritt were like the main characters and the main points of view, and I found them a little more boring than some of the side characters. So I didn't love them as much. But I still gave the book 4 stars because it was interesting and it was good. It just wasn't my favorite of hers. I just found the main couple to be a little bit more boring than the side characters. I wanted more of the side characters. And I know that most of the side characters are going to get their own stories, so I'm excited about those. And so I'll probably like the other books in the series a little more than this one. Okay. So the next book that I read is The Secret of Happiness, or The Secret to Happiness, by Suzanne Woods Fisher. And that is a sequel to The Sweet Life. This is book 1, which I read earlier in the summer. And the Secret of Happiness is a sequel to it. It's about a girl, she's a chef and she loses her job. And so she moves in with her cousin and aunt at the Cape Cod Creamery, which they started in book 1. And she's really depressed because she thinks she's getting MS. And so her cousin makes her go to this Secret of Happiness class at the community center, and she kind of goes through the steps of that to try to discover, to try to get over her depression. And so that was really interesting. It was really nice to see the characters from book 1 and how they developed during book 2. I really liked them. We got to see more of the guy that was the ex-fiance in book 1, we got to see more of him in book 2, so I kind of enjoyed seeing his character a little bit more. Yeah, that's that's really all I can say about it. I guess it wasn't all that memorable. I gave it 4 stars. I do know that. But just, there wasn't a lot that stood out as memorable to talk about, so just gave it 4 stars. The next book that I read is The Carousel Painter by Judith Miller. Unfortunately, I gave this book 2 stars. I really did not enjoy it. I'm just going to put that out there right now. First of all, and this is just a personal preference, but it's written in first person, which I don't love in books. Like, I don't know why. I just don't really like first person that much, and it's written in first person. But also, more importantly than how it's written, because there have been books that are written in first person that I've given 4 or 5 stars. Like, they're just not my favorite. It's not my favorite way of writing. But this one, I gave it 2 stars because I just really didn't like the main character. Her name is Carrington, but she's kind of a brat most of the book. And, I feel bad saying that because part of the plot of the book is that, she's kind of studying the Bible and she's trying to get better. Like, she knows she's a brat, so she's trying to get better at it. But she just really got on my nerves for most of the book. And I found her love interest pretty boring and pretty bland. So she got on my nerves. The side characters got on my nerves. Her love interest was really bland. I felt like the villain was super obvious. Like, y'all, we all saw that coming. Give us a little subtlety, please. I feel bad. I'm like trashing this book, and I don't mean to. It's just, I really didn't like it. And that's the thing about reading is that I'm sorry. Reading is so subjectional. So me saying I gave this 2 stars, I think I actually might have given it 3 on my Instagram, but I was really trying to be nice, and in all honesty, it's like a 2. So my Instagram, I'm pretty sure I said 3 stars, but I was really, really digging deep and trying to find good things about it, but the more I think about it, the more I'm like, it's 2. Anyway, the thing about reading is that it's super subjectional. So even though I really, really didn't like this book, that doesn't mean you won't like this book. You may love this book, and that's amazing, and I would never judge you for that. Amazing, you like this book, it's your cup of tea, it's not my cup of tea. And that's what's great about reading and books, is that there's something for everyone. So I know I just trashed the book, But even though I think it's a 2-star read, please don't think this is me telling you not to read it, because books are very subjectional and you may like it. So I would never tell somebody not to read a book unless I had like really, really bad content that I like couldn't support. Then I would tell somebody not to read it. But just because I didn't like it, I would never tell you not to read it. I just want to put that out there. Because I feel bad. I feel bad when I give books really low stars. Especially because as a writer myself, like, I know an author pours their heart into a book, and like, I don't want to hurt their feelings, you know, but I just didn't like it. It wasn't my thing. So, but I know that there are lots of readers out there who would, so I encourage them to read it. Anyway, the next book that I read is Love Finds You in Annapolis, Maryland by Roseanna M White. As I said before, she's one of my favorite authors, and this is one of her older books, and it came out a while before I discovered her, so I hadn't actually gotten around to reading it. And so I finally picked it up on Pango, and I read it, and I absolutely loved it. 5 stars right now. Like, it totally made up for my last read. Like, I loved it so much. Just to let you guys know, this book, it's called Love Finds You in Annapolis, Maryland, because it's a part of a series that a publisher did where they had several of their resident authors do a book, and they're each called Love Finds You in, and then there's like different locations. So hers is Love Finds You in Annapolis, Maryland, but she did recently do a reprinting of this book where she renamed it A Heart's Revolution, which I think is perfect. A perfect title, really. It really fits how the book goes. But so this book follows Lark and what is his name? Emerson. So Lark and Emerson are engaged, and Lark is absolutely in love with him. She's been in love with him since they were children. But 2 years into their engagement, he's been dragging his feet all this time, and she starts to realize, like, this guy has no actual interest in me. He just did this because our families expected it, and she's like, I don't want a loveless marriage. So she breaks up with him, and she goes from their family plantation in Virginia to some friends in Annapolis to spend the winter with them to kind of give it over her breakup. But what she doesn't expect is that Emerson, her ex-fiance, follows her, because he's like, no, this is my duty to marry her. I propose, like, I have to get her back. And then she's like, no, I'm not coming back just so you can fulfill your duty. And she starts, but then he's like, wow, she actually has some spunk now. I'm actually intrigued. And so they kind of re-fall in love through this winter in Annapolis. And it's 1783, so there's a lot going on post-revolution. They're getting the government together, and Annapolis is a big part of that because it was at the beginning the capital before it was one of our first capitals. That's what I'll say. And so there's a lot like politically going on, and that's really interesting, especially because one of the side characters in this book was a loyalist during the revolution. Like, he didn't fight as a soldier due to an injury, but he did support the crown, and so his property was seized during the revolution. And now, as they're becoming a nation, one of the amendments of the Treaty of Paris, which helped us, which meant the Treaty of Paris is where Britain ratified us, like accepted us as a nation. And one of the points of the Treaty of Paris was that citizens of the United States that had supported the crown had to have their property returned to them. So this guy is trying to get his property returned, but there's still a lot of patriots in the town. They're like, nah, you should just go back to England because you didn't support us, whatever. But his reasons of support, like, he loves the United States, and his reasons for supporting the crown was based on the Bible, which says, you know, support your government. And he felt in his heart that meant that he had to support the crown, even if he didn't agree with what the crown was doing. So, like, having that as a side character and having that as a side plot, I found really interesting. Like, it was really, really good. And the love story was really good. The character's development was really, really good. The spiritual story was really, really good. Like, I mean, 5 stars. Like, I absolutely love this book. I put a star next to it on my reading notes in my phone. Like, I keep a note in my phone of all the books I read, and I put the stars next to the one that I think are going to be in the running for in the top books of the year at the end of the year. Put a star next to this one. It's definitely going to be one of my favorites. I really enjoyed it, and I'd really recommend it. You can either find it in this binding, which is its original, or you can find A Heart's Revolution, which is the rename. It's the same book. So I'd say look for that. The next book that I read is The Secrets of Paper and Ink by Lindsey Harrel. And this is about 3 women who kind of, their stories intertwine in England. 2 of the women are in the present day. One is a bookshop owner who lives in England, and another is, she's a counselor, but she has to take a leave of absence from work. So she goes on a 3-month vacation to England, and she rents out the apartment above the bookshop. So the 2 women become friends. And then the third woman is a story that they find her journal from the 1800s. And so they're trying to figure out who she was, like who wrote this journal. And so her story is actually in like the 1880s or something like that. So it is a dual timeline novel with 3 points of view, because it has a point of view for each woman. 2 of the points of view in the present day, 1 is in the past. When I looked at the back of this book, like the back ad of the book, I didn't realize it was going to be as heavy as it was. The one main character who is a counselor taking a leave of absence, she's taking a leave of absence because she's trying to heal from her late fiance's abuse. So, like, trigger warning, domestic abuse is a big topic in this book, and it's talked about a lot. And I did not know that. It doesn't say that on the back. Like, after I realized, like, after I got into this heaviness of the book, I was like, whoa, did I miss that on the back? And I, like, reread the back ad, and it doesn't mention it. So I just wanted to mention that to you guys, that domestic abuse is, like, a big part of this book. And it can kind of be hard to get through at points. So, wanted to warn you that. I did give it 4 stars, though. It is a good book, and it has a good spiritual message. I did just want to warn you guys, though, that it has those elements in it. So the last book that I read, technically I finished this book on October 1st, so it's not in my September wrap-ups on Instagram, but I wanted to include it in the September video because I started reading it like 2 weeks before September ended, and I spent like 2 weeks reading it. So even though I finished it on October 1st, I was like, I don't know, it's really more of a September read to me. So that book is Codes of Courage by A.L. Sowards. So Codes of Courage is a NetGalley arc that I was approved for. It comes out on October 10th, and I will have a more in-depth book review for it when it comes out with spoilers. Today's little review will not have spoilers. What I will say today is that I absolutely love this book. It was so close to being 5 stars, and like I was literally reading through it and I was like, oh, this is gonna be 5 stars. Like, I'm 3/4 of the way through and I'm like, this is such a 5-star read, love this so much. And then something happened with one of the characters. There are 3 main characters in Codes of Courage. There is Millie, there is Carl, and there is Rolf. Codes of Courage takes place in World War II. Carl is an Austrian refugee. His father was an Austrian codebreaker, but when the onslaught happened and Germany took over Austria, his father was like, no, I'm not going to work for Hitler. So a Nazi soldier who had actually been an old family friend killed him, and so Carl took his 2 younger sisters and fled the country. Unfortunately, they were separated en route. The youngest sister was sent with a nanny, and then she was like 8, and then his 15 or 16-year-old sister and he were going to travel together, but they were separated at the train station, and so he makes it to England by himself. He doesn't know where his siblings are. They're supposed to meet up in England if they get separated, so he's hoping they'll come. But he wants to join the Navy and fight against Hitler, but since he's Austrian, they won't take him, so instead he joins the Merchant Marines. The next character is Millie. Millie is the American daughter of a diplomat. an American diplomat, but her mother is English and her uncle is a vice admiral in the British Navy. And so she's like really smart and really good at puzzles and that kind of thing. So her uncle gets her a job at Bletchley Park, which is the code breaking station of World War II in Britain. So she's breaking codes. And then the third character is Rolf, and Rolf is a German soldier on a submarine, and he actually he's the German word for it is Funkmast. That's what they call it in the book. But he is the officer that uses the Enigma machine to send codes from the submarine. So they're each in separate parts of World War I, or World War II, I'm sorry, and their lives are crisscrossing. And the reason that it got 4 stars instead of 5 stars for me is because one of the storylines for one of the 3 characters did not end in a way that I wanted it to. Something happens in their life that I was just like, what? No, and I did not see it coming. So apparently Codes of Courage is kind of like a prequel / sequel to another book that A.L. Sowards did, which is called Heirs of Falcon Point, which Heirs of Falcon Point is a book that like several authors contributed to. And so Heirs of Falcon Point starts out because Carl and his siblings are the heirs of Falcon Point. Like, Falcon Point is where they live. And so Heirs of Falcon Point starts out with the death of their father, and they're fleeing the country. But then it jumps forward to the present day, and it has the descendants of the 3 siblings kind of coming back to their home and reclaiming their home and trying to figure out like why their siblings were never able to meet up again, because once they're separated, they don't find each other again. But so I guess people who had read Heirs of Falcon Point first would know what happened to this character, but I did not. I didn't know that Codes of Courage was like a prequel. And so when it happened in the book, I was like, wait, what? Like, it shocked me. I didn't know. So anyway, still though I gave it 4 stars because other than what happened to that character, I did really, really enjoy it. What I will say though is that, so there is a lot of technical jargon in this book. I really enjoyed it because as a history major, I love World War II and I love code breaking. You can see I have several nonfiction titles about code breaking. I have one on Bletchley Park. I have one on the women who did code breaking in America, which I'm like halfway through this one. I need to finish it. But anyway, so like I like reading about the historical and the technical stuff. Like I have nonfiction stuff on that. I did research on that in school because that was my major. It's something I really, really enjoy. However, if you don't love all the really historically accurate details and all the technical jargon, then this might not be the book for you, because I will say the author did a lot of great research and it's really, really good. It's so well researched, but some readers just aren't into all that technical stuff. Like I have friends, even another friend who is a history major and likes history, like doesn't necessarily want that in the books that they read, like because they just like lighter, kind of more fun books. And so if you like a book that's a little lighter and more easygoing and you don't like slogging through technical jargon in your historical fiction, I'm just going to tell you, it's probably not the book for you. I enjoy it, so I really loved it, but you know, as I said before, reading is subjectional, so you have to go with what you like. Okay, that wraps up my September reads. Thank you guys for joining me, and I'm sorry for the coughing and my voice. As I said, I'm getting over a cold. But yeah, so a lot of exciting things happening in October. Look for that video on Codes of Courage coming out, if you don't mind the spoilers. Maybe look for a video of a reading vlog of Guard Her Heart. I'm going to see if I can do that. I'm going to see if I can find another way to film so that I can read on my phone. And look for my announcement on my November readathon. All right, see you guys later.